Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to be making a fun double slider surprise birthday card. And we're going to be using some stamps and dies from Lawn Fawn. First off, we're going to start with the Bristol Strathmore Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And these are the stamps here. Again, these are from Lawn Fawn, and we're going to be using all of those images there that I'm pointing to. And you'll see that again in a minute here, and that little cloud as well. And this is the Village Shop stamp set, and we also have the coordinating dies. And then from this little set here, we're going to be using the trees and that cloud. And this is called the Happy Village stamp set, and again the coordinating dies. So I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to ink up all my stamps. I've placed some Strathmore Bristol Smooth paper in my Misty stamp positioner, and I'm going to stamp those. And then I'm going to stamp some additional trees and clouds. I'm not sure how many I need, so I'm just going to stamp quite a few extra. Now I'm going to be doing some coloring. I'm using light gray, gray brown, pink, May green, turquoise green, and light blue. And I'm going to start by also using my blender pen. And these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And they're a water-based marker, and it has the fine detailer tip on it. And I'm going to do the coloring on all the shops the same way. I'm going to have a color at the bottom and the top, and then I'm going to blend those two to the center to create the lightest effect in the center of the houses. So I did speed this up because I didn't want to take a lot of time with the coloring, but I did want to show you what colors I used. So as I go along here, I will show you all of the colors that I used. And again, you could use the blender pen that I'm using here, or you could use a water brush as well. Either way will blend the colors nicely. I do find, and I know I've said this many times, but I do find the blender pen when you're working with these little tiny images seems to be a little bit easier to control. You don't get quite as much water. On the water brush, sometimes you can get a little bit too much water. If it's a larger image that doesn't seem to matter too much, but in these smaller ones, sometimes it's just a little hard to control. So I'm just going to kind of blend all this out. And for these windows, I'm just applying a little bit of that light blue to the corners of the windows and then just kind of blending it in. I would say for the most part here, I used just one color and pulled that color in. Now on the roof there, I did use a light shade of gray and a darker shade, but I would say for the majority of the coloring, I just used one color. So I'm using light blue, orange, light violet, pink, light gray, and gray brown for this next little shop. So basically the same exact technique that I used before on the other house there. Now what's so nice about the Lawn Fawn products is everything coordinates together. And there are currently, I believe, 3 stamp sets that are village related. There's the Happy Village stamp set, the Village Shops set, and the Winter Village. And what's nice is you can kind of pick and choose the items that you want from each of the sets. But they all do coordinate together. Size-wise, they're compatible, and everything seems to work as one unit. And what they constantly are doing is adding items to the sets to continually give you more options with the sets that you have. I know for myself, I'll typically buy stamping products that I feel will do more than one thing. I mean, if I really love something, I'll get it anyway, but typically I'm looking for things that coordinate together, and that's why, again, these products really serve that purpose. So I also wanted to mention that the color palette that I'm using for this entire project is like a hot pink, an orangey, corally orange color, like a grass green, a teal color, and purple. So those are the colors that I was using, and that's to go along with the current challenge on the Lawn Fawn blog, which is a color challenge this month. So when you get a chance, you could always go over to the Lawn Fawn Challenge blog and check that out. So now for this next one, we're going to be using light blue, pink, orange, and light violet. And sometimes I find that these challenges really help you stretch your imagination. You know, like these different color combinations can really help you maybe get outside your normal comfort zone, maybe the colors that you always use. This is a way just to kind of stretch your imagination, get a little more creative, maybe look at your products in a different way. So, you know, it's fun to participate in some of these challenges, or sometimes I'll just set up a challenge for myself. I'll just take out maybe 5 or 6 products and limit myself to just using those products. And that sometimes, because I think we have so many products that sometimes it's a little overwhelming. So if you just focus on a few products, sometimes it's easier to get creative with just those few products. So I don't know, you could give that a try and see. Sometimes that'll help you get out of any kind of creative block that you might be in. So again here, I'm just continuing blending these out, and I'm not going to show you the coloring on that little group of shops. Basically, it was the exact same method that I used to color these in. So you can see here that that one is colored in, and now I'm going to use the May green and the green to do these little trees. Basically just started with the light green and applied a little bit of the darker green around the edges and then pulled it in to create that light center. Now you could do the exact opposite here. You could have the center dark and then pull it out towards the lighter, towards the edges as the lighter color. Here I'm using oatmeal and dark brown to do the trunk of the tree, and just applying a little bit of that darker brown and then again pulling it in. Now I'm going to be using turquoise green, gray brown, and light gray. And I'm going to be coloring this little post in. And in a little while we will be, I will be stamping this as a little shopping sign. So with that stamp set, you get all these little tiny sentiments that fit right inside that little sign. And then I just went to use the orange for the bicycle seat and part of the bicycle there, and then a little bit of light gray in the tire area. And then for this little potted plant, I used orange, and then the 2 greens that I used in the trees. Now I'm going to use light blue, light gray, gray brown, pink, and orange. And this is going to be for my little ice cream truck. And yeah, on that little post sign, we're going to stamp the word shop. So it's going to be just a little shopping village, which I think will just be adorable. It's just a happy, festive little birthday card. Now I'm going to be using oatmeal and dark brown, and that's to do this little bench here. And I'm applying the dark brown just to the 2 sides and then pulling towards the center here. And now with the light gray, I'm just going to put a little bit, tiny bit of that light gray at the bottom of each of these clouds and just blend that out. So I went ahead and colored in the rest of the clouds and the rest of the trees. And you can see that that's such a pretty color combination, I think. Very just fun and whimsical. So now I'm going to take my Jelly Roll white gel pen and I'm just going to add some little highlights to everything here. Just a little bit on these trees. And a little bit on the houses. Just kind of like a little highlight where the light might be hitting. And then on these little awnings, I decided to do little hash marks one way and then hash marks the opposite way every other one. And on this one, I decided to do some little polka dots. I don't know, there's something about the white little gel pen touches that seems to bring these to life for me. So I usually tend to add just a little bit of that here and there. You don't have to be fussy. You don't have to really worry where you put it. Just put it wherever you think you might see a little bit of a highlight. So now I've just cut these down to size just so that they will fit in my little mini Sizzix Sidekick machine. And I'm just going to take the dies, the coordinating dies, and line them up and then put a little bit of purple tape on there to hold them in place while I run them through the die cut machine. And this is the little Sizzix Sidekick here. This is the Tim Holtz version. And I'm just going to place these on here and run them through. And that's going to leave a cute little white border around the edges of all of these images. So I went ahead and ran all of those through. Now I'm using my Nuvo Crystal Glaze. And this is just a crystal clear glaze. And I'm just going to apply it to all the windows on all the houses. A little bit on that ice cream and the ice cream truck. The wheels on the truck. Just to add a little bit more dimension. And again, it'll dry crystal clear. And you do want to set these aside for a little while to dry. Now here's this double slider surprise die, and this is again from Lawn Fawn. And we're going to start off with this piece here. This is going to be the mechanism that's going to allow this little slider to work. So I'm running this through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine, and I die cut this out of the Bristol Strathmore Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And I've just taken a piece of packaging here, and I'm just going to cut that end off first. And then I'm going to cut this to about 2 1/4 inches. And I need a piece that's maybe about 10 inches long, 10 or 11 inches long here. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'm just going to cut it down to size here. Now that's going to wrap right around this little tab here. So I'm just going to hold that down with my scissors there. And then I'm going to take some 1/8 inch score tape. And you do want a heavy duty tape here, just to make sure this holds in place, because this is going to be, again, the mechanism that makes this slider work. So I'm putting a little bit of tape right there along that edge. And then I'm going to wrap around that excess piece. And I don't want it too tight. I want to have a little bit of play in there so this will slide back and forth. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. I'm cutting away the excess, and then you'll see that it's got enough play here so it slides around. And you do want to move that around a little bit just to make sure that it works properly. And then I'm going to put another piece of tape right over that piece of tape that we applied before. Now I'm going to put tape on these little, I call them little tabs, these little ends here on both the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to put the same tape on the top and bottom of these two little tabs. So now I'm going to flip it over. I've got tape on one side on the front on the left side. So now I want tape on the right side in about the same place on the back. So I've got it on the left and then on the right on the back side. So we're going to set that aside for now. So now we're going to create the sleeve for that little mechanism. So I'm going to die cut again out of the 100-pound cardstock. I have 2 of these panels and 2 of these panels. And I want to put some little notches in these panels before I try to do any of my artwork. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off camera there, but all I'm doing is butting it right up against the edge. And then I'm taping it in place, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. So you just want to butt that little piece up against the edge, and it's going to cut that little notch out of the front and the back of our little slider card. So now you'll see that those 2 little panels will be the slider portions. They're going to go in and out of the sides of those little tabs. So now what I want to do is I'm going to start to create my scene. So I wanted to create a little road here at the bottom. So I'm going to put some purple tape. This was sliding around a little bit, so I just put a little bit of my glue tape down here just to hold that in place. This is the Tombow glue tape. And again, I will give you all that information at the bottom. All the supplies will be listed below. And then I'm putting my purple tape at about 3/4 of an inch. And I'm using the glass mat to line that up, just to make sure it's nice and straight. Now using the Hickory Smoke and the Black Soot, these are the Distress Oxide inks from Tim Holtz. I'm going to apply that Hickory Smoke first. And that purple tape is just masking it off so I can create the road down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to use the Black Soot, and I'm just kind of coming in at the top portion of this just to create a little bit of a shadow there. And then I'm going back with the Hickory Smoke and just blending those 2 together. And then if you want more shadow, you can come back in with more of the black and again blend those 2 together. And now I'm going to do the same thing with this panel, but this panel is smaller, and I want to center it because it's going to pull out from the center of that little tabbed panel. So I want to see about where that's going to line up so that my road lines up when I open the slider card. So this is about 1/2 of an inch up, and the other was about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just lining it up on my glass mat there to make sure it's straight, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did before, just blending my 2 colors together here. And then I went ahead and did the same thing for this other panel as well. So now we have everything is all lined up there. So now what I'm going to do is I wanted to reuse my purple tape. You could just grab another piece. I just lay it on my glass mat and I wiped it down and cleaned it off because I don't want to transfer any of that black up into the sky. So either grab a clean piece of the purple tape or just make sure you clean this off. And then I'm using the Distress Oxide Tumbled Glass, and I'm simply just going to apply a light layer of this all over the top here. And then I'm going to take the Distress Sprayer from Tim Holtz, and this just has water in it, and I'm going to spritz that, and then I'm going to blot that up with a paper towel. And that'll just leave some little, like a little splatter effect there on the sky. So now I'm going to take this first panel. I'm removing the backing from my tape. You can see the tape is on the left-hand side, and I'm lining up the right-hand side with those 2 little tabs on the end. Then I'm flipping it over, and I'm going to remove the tape from this side, and I'm going to put my panel face down and center it, and lining it up with that left-hand side of the tabs. And then I'm going to glue that in place. And you'll see now that that's my little slider mechanism. So you just want to check it a little bit, make sure that it's working properly. Now I'm going to set that aside. And what I want to do here is fold the tabs on these two panels. And I'm going to grab my bone folder here and press that out. Make sure I have a nice crease on these two pieces. And then those two will get connected together, just like that. So I'm going to take my 1/8 inch score tape and I'm going to place that right down that tab, on the side of that tab. And then I'm just going to cut away that excess. Then I'll remove the backing from the tape and connect these two together. This mechanism is going to fit right inside there. So I'm going to remove the backing from the tape on the back side here, and then I'm going to slide it into place, and I'm going to position it right down in that fold at the bottom there. And then I'm going to position that down. Now I'm going to remove the backing from the tape on these two pieces on the front, and then I'm going to fold up that bottom tab, and then I'm going to place another piece of tape on that tab and fold this shut. So I'm going to remove that backing. Now I do want to make sure that it's not sticking. And you can see here it got a little bit stuck on that tape. So I want to make sure that the mechanism is moving freely before I tape this down. So just double check that before you close this. So we're going to just fold this over and tape this down. And then again, double check that your mechanism is working properly. So now at the bottom, I did have a little bit of white showing, so I'm just taking that hickory smoke and just brushing it along that bottom edge. So now I want to use the sentiment from the stamp set, and it says, "It's your birthday, treat yourself." So I did have to cut that first stamp in half. So the first panel will say, "It's your," and the center will say, "Birthday," and then to the right it'll say, "Treat yourself." So I'm just going to pick that up with an acrylic block. I'm going to ink it up with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink and stamp that. And then I'm going to do the same thing for these other two. Now on the birthday, it didn't quite stamp, so I'm just taking a black pen and I'm just going to go over that and fill that in a little bit, and you won't be able to tell that I did that at all. So now I'm going to just kind of position where I want all my little items, and here I want to stamp that word shop in that little sign, so I'm just going to place that on an acrylic block, and again going back to my VersaFine Onyx Black ink, I'm going to stamp the word shop there. And now I'm going to continue to position all these little items in place. And you can see how quickly this little scene comes together. And I just want to put my little clouds down. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just use the Lawn Fawn glue tube, and I'm going to attach all of these pieces. So I went ahead and I did that. So now for the next section, I wanted to have something to place this little slider card on. So I'm using my fancy scalloped rectangle stackables, and I'm using the Spiffy Speckles Petite paper pack in the pink, and then I'm going to use the small stitch rectangle stackables, the largest one. And I'm going to go ahead and run those through my die cut machine. And then I'm just going to put some tape. I'm using the Tumbled glue tape on the back of this pink panel, and I'm just going to center it on that scallop rectangle. And now that slider is going to sit right on top of that panel. So I'm going to take some Scotch foam mounting tape and I'm going to position it on the back. And I just want to make sure that I avoid those two little tabs there. So I'm removing the backing from all of my tape and I'm going to center it on this panel. And propping it up makes it easier to pull the slider in and out. It just gives you a little bit more room to get your fingers in there so you can open and close it. And I did decide to go back in and put a little bit more of that white gel pen on the roof of that house and a couple other little areas here. And then for this last little house, I wanted one for the back of the card. And I can sign, stamp a sentiment and sign on the back section. So I thought it'd be cute to have a little house back there. You could decorate this a little bit more if you wanted to, but I just thought that was kind of simple and easy to do. So now you can see that we have the slider and all the detail here. And you can see the crystal glaze on the windows. And I just think this makes a cute, fun little birthday card. And on the back again, you can sign back here and stamp your sentiment there. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much for visiting today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.